Back with more NBA coverage, and in this one I'll be covering all of the Game 6 action for the first round of the NBA playoffs. And with teams being in this particular game right here, you already have an understanding of how this would end up going. On the one end, you have a particular team looking to close out a series and try as best as they can to advance to the next round as soon as possible, avoiding the opposing team to gather any momentum for a potential Game 7. And of course, if you are facing elimination, because the record would typically be 3-2 for all parties involved, you are trying your best to stay alive. You don't want to end your season in that fashion. You want to have at least one more opportunity on your end to pull off the upset, pull off the underdog story, and win the entire thing to advance to the next round. And when it came to this specific cluster and slate of games, for the majority of them, there were big swings and brutal droughts involved in most of them. And you can imagine where the hell that I'm going with this. Going by the flow of the slate, we have no other choice than to start with the Knicks and the Hawks. And when you get into the very early portions of this game, it felt to me like the Hawks, with a crowd on their side, were really attempting their best to keep this game close. Now, granted, the Knicks scored the first 5 points with some more sloppiness from Atlanta, which had been typical for them over the past couple of games, as OG Anunoby was able to get out in transition. And he would go on to have a very productive first quarter in general. In fact, a later post touch turning into a three-point shot by him forced a timeout from the Hawks. And that was despite them going on an 11-4 run at that point, where you had Nickeil Alexander-Walker hit a couple of key shots for them, and you also had Jalen Johnson able to get down into the lane on multiple occasions for easy finishes at the rim, whether it be him laying the ball up or whether it be a dunk. Just think about one of these Jalen Johnson makes, which ended up being a simple jump shot inside the painted area. As good as it looked for him, and those are the shots that he wanted to produce, those high percentage looks, let this sink in for you. Because the 11-9 lead that the Hawks had after this specific score would be the very last time they led in this game. As I mentioned, OG Anunoby was just scorching hot in this first quarter, and that timeout-inducing shot was part of a 6-point personal run that he had at that time, while New York also shared it. So you have that 6-0 run by this team as they're trying to take full control of this game. They'd already, over the past couple, started to increase and ramp up their defensive intensity, forcing the Hawks into bad mistakes, forcing them into bad shots all over the floor. And especially in those last couple games, outracing them so early that they didn't even have to worry about it coming down to the fourth quarter. And it won them the last two games. It got them this 3-2 lead. And yeah, all right. So, yeah. All right. CJ wanted so bad to be the villain, right? All right. Okay. All right. Yep. C.J. McCollum. Fuck that nigga. Fuck Jalen Johnson. Fuck Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Fuck Onyeka Okongwu. Fuck that whole Hawks team. We have the better fucking lineup. Every single one of these niggas. We got Karl Anthony Towns out here throwing balls to the wall. And this nigga only had to put up 4 fucking shots for a triple-double. 4 shots and 10 free throws. We have the advantage over this team. We can shoot better than this fucking team all fucking game long. Belt to ass all fucking game for the next 17 minutes of action. A 63-11 run on this damn team. Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? There is no way. Everybody talking about Mikal Bridges is overrated. We gave up 5 first-round picks for the nigga. Watch him ball the fuck out against this team. Mitchell Robinson, too, going sky high for lob after lob after lob. Over and over and over again. Fuck these niggas. Up. Punch him in the mouth. Punch him in the fucking gut till they have nothing left in their fucking soul by the end of this game. Each and every single one of these niggas. Fuck everybody that came to the game too. Knicks fans travel. We own them all night long. We own them all fucking series over the last couple games. And it culminated in a fucking blowout of historical proportions. We dare these niggas to keep shooting because they can't hit open jump shots if they fucking try. We dare them to try to match our defensive intensity because we're fucking faster than them. All 3 phases, every single element of the fucking game, we are better and we are going to absolutely rough them the fuck up. 63-11 run. Are you kidding me? And my naive ass thought that this Hawks team coming into this game had a chance. I really believe that. And then that happened. Over the next 17 minutes. A 63-11 run. And it did not stop. Now, there have been some crazy runs covered in some of the previous recaps. For example, in the regular season, I talked about how in a game against the Magic, they gave up a 31-point unanswered run. And you're thinking to yourself in that moment, you have to have so many different things go right for you as a team to accrue that many points in a row without little counteraction from your opponent. Do you understand the amount of things in a row that would have to line up for a team to consistently put points on the board like that and consistently come up with defensive stops on the other end? And you can try your hardest, and it would still not produce anything like that at all. The game itself was the game itself, when you take a freeze frame, it was 72-22 before the halfway mark of the second quarter. Man, 72-22 in an elimination game where, as I'm saying in real time, dude, you have people who came out of their fucking jobs early to watch this game. You have kids missing school time and sacrificing their fucking sleep schedule for this game. And that's what you're rolling out there with. Again, in an elimination style game like this, I can't necessarily question the effort of the other team, but my fucking goodness, you allowed the Knicks to just roll over you. Stick a fork in this team because they were fucking done, and then continue to run roughshod all over them. That is a massive amount of disrespect. And it's like, damn, we can't do anything right. Largest margin in any playoff quarter in all time for the Knicks after one at 25. The largest margin at a set point in a playoff game, I believe, since the play-by-play era, because they had a 47-point advantage at halftime by the end of this. Oh my gosh, man. It just, literally, as I said, man, the dark humor jokes out there that you will hear just get progressively worse and worse. The Knicks had as many steals at halftime as the Hawks did overall field goal makes. And again, that's a testament to their ability to literally not give them anything. The way that they were playing them defensively matched what was taking place. They were letting nothing up. Simply put, all the passing lanes are shut down. The individual defensive assignments, especially from OG Anunoby and Josh Hart, and those guys were well executed. So you could tell after a while, I was like, what more can we do? And even another person that was in there watching this was saying the same thing. At some point, you just got to muck up the game. You're down by fucking 50 with 4 minutes left to go in the second quarter. So Dyson Daniels decided to grab up Mitchell Robinson. Now, granted, I was expecting something like that to happen already because they had beef with each other. They had a similar kind of encounter in an earlier game in the series. So that was most likely going to be a given. Both of them, after this scuffle, would end up getting ejected from the game. And the confrontation itself wasn't really the issue there. The second that I saw this ref fall to the ground through indirect contact, and then you also had other people fall down on the ground, that was the only time the Knicks felt pressure, by the way, because Mike Brown was fighting for his life after falling to the ground. It was nothing about Atlanta's approach to attacking them defensively or trying to string together their own offensive sets. No, it was literally Mike Brown having to face Mitchell Robinson's own wrath through association. The second that ref fell down, it was just going to be a wrap from there. And it's weak as shit, but that's just how it is. They're not going to go for that. Man. Oh yeah, not to mention that if not for CJ McCollum 3 of all people, fuck CJ McCollum. You can say that now and you have a reason to do it. And talking all that shit, trying to be a villain. All these niggas, every single one of them got punked. And their asses whipped. That's what happened. At the very least, they were able to avoid even more of a horrific stat line, as the 2004 New Jersey Nets were the last team to post less than 25 points in any playoff half. They did get to 36 through a miracle, honestly. Foreshadowing, also. Yeah. I did not need my notes for the rest of this game. The main thing for me was, hey, if you're the Knicks at this point, you've got this sealed up. They reached 100 points and had a 61-point lead. At the 8-minute mark of the third quarter. Then Jalen Johnson hit a three-pointer from deep to cut the lead down to 58. Like, it just... Man, it just... Dude, at that point, and they had enough time to show fucking Boosie falling to the ground after having Jalen Brunson accidentally run into him. They had enough time to interview Walt Frazier, interchanging the names there. And even he was kind of saying it, well, hey, like, you know, there isn't much that you can do if you are Atlanta in this situation. Maybe just sulk on it, go to the bar, get some drinks, something else, because you're not winning this game. Of course, he can't show his full bias, but I'm sure he was happy, as well as the other Knicks legends that were there in real time watching this game, as you just had Hawks fans just clearing out. And that's another dynamic of it as well. Like, how can you really cheer for anything else going on in this game? And again, it had been building up to this gradually. If you look at what was going on in Game 4, if you look at what was going on in Game 5 and how I was talking about it there, it is not like this was coming out of nowhere. And it still surprised the living shit out of everybody. Still. Like, this is not something that typically happens in a playoff setting. And even the broadcast team made this point at several times, which is why I was also, as well, before we even got to this point, saying that the Hawks could have pulled off an upset here. These teams are evenly matched, and still there are levels to this basketball shit. There are levels to this playoff shit. My goodness, man. Like, at this point, you're running out of descriptors, because when you see a 140 to 89 win for the Knicks, a 51-point margin of victory, it's like, what? That is exactly what it is. It's not a typo. This is what took place. You know, I've watched the whole game. I literally thought that Atlanta had a chance, and they just oh my gosh. Like, that's crazy, man. That's so crazy. I can't believe that, man. I really can't. It did happen in real time. I have to start with the Knicks. Like, that's only right? OG Anunoby had his most productive half as a player, point blank period, with 26 points in the first half, and finished with 29, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 steals on 11 of 14 shooting with 4 threes. And oh yeah, all that stuff you were talking about, Mikal Bridges as well. Well, he had 24 points in this game, with 5 rebounds and 3 assists on 10 of 12 shooting. The team as a whole shot 58.8% from the floor, and they didn't even need Jalen Brunson to do as much, although he had 8 assists and no turnovers along with 17 points. And again, Karl-Anthony Towns, literally, with one of the more revealing things that you can have happen in an NBA game. Because his 4 shots total from the field were the fewest in a playoff triple-double, which he logged his second one in a span of a couple games. In this very series against this Hawks team, without having to be incredibly dominant as a scorer. Think about that. 4 shots from the field. And he still had enough of an impact to pull down timely rebounds, getting 11 in this game, and also being a great facilitator from that 5 spot with 10 assists. Just the ultimate disrespect piling up over and over and over again. And even better when you look at it this way, every single player that touched the court for the Knicks scored. Every single one. And that consists of a full 15-man roster that they unloaded over time. Landry Shamet, Ariel Huporti, Mohamed Diawara, Tyler Kolek, Jordan Clarkson, Miles McBride, Mitchell Robinson, Hakeem Dadier, Jose Alvarado, and Jeremy Sochan. All 15 on the active roster scored. Every single one made at least a shot in this game. They had 35 points in the fast break compared to Atlanta's 8. They had 26 points off of 19 forced turnovers compared to Atlanta's 8 off of just 9 given up. Not only did they completely bottle them up defensively, they themselves were also very clean, very tight-knit, and had enough of an intent on each and every single one of their possessions to pull off very good looks, which ended up being another key takeaway here. So the Knicks became, with this, the very first Eastern Conference team to advance outright to the next round. And trust me, they left nothing in doubt out there. Not a single thing. Now again, in tougher games, I don't know if a difference like this will always hold up, because it's very historically rare to see that. So I don't know if that can be replicated specifically, but it's like, damn, this is what we've been waiting for. If you're a Knicks fan, isn't it? This is exactly what you'd been trying to see in this team all season long. And over the past 3 games to win this out after trailing 2-1, they found that, seemingly. So if they can carry that over, any number of things could happen for this New York team moving forward. And that could be a very good thing. As for Atlanta, they shot just 37.8% from the field and 25.7% from 3. Of course, they sunk themselves in the first halves of the last couple games, not getting off to these great stretches from the field, efficiency-wise. And the same thing continued there. Because again, some of the shots taken during that 63-11 run were ones that these guys could normally hit, and for one reason or another, they just keep going out the backboard, they just keep coming out of the rim, and they don't have enough on the glass as well to even fight for offensive rebounds. In fact, it became much less of a fight, at least from an even standpoint, turned into just a one-sided affair in every sense of the word. Jalen Johnson in this game had 21 points, 8 rebounds and 6 assists on 7 of 15 shooting. And while CJ McCollum Jonathan Kuminga and Nickeil Alexander-Walker all had 11 points. They were all relatively inefficient from the field. Like, less and less of that would come to matter over time, to be completely honest. Hawks had tried to fight for as long as possible. And for a time, they honestly were. This game, after that 11-9 lead, what's that? Became a distant memory. They can take away a lot from this season still. It was a very successful one for them to be an outright playoff seed, knowing that, one, you traded away your franchise player since 2018 in Trae Young. You send him away via a package to Washington. And at that point in the season, if you remember, they were held back, in a sense, by those defensive limitations. It cost them a good amount of ground at that time. And they still, from that point forward, were one of the best teams in the league in a number of metrics, as Jalen Johnson truly rose into being a superstar caliber player, as Nickeil Alexander-Walker continued to find that stride, as CJ McCollum started to become more of a veteran presence for this roster. That balance of youth and potential leadership at the top is something that this team can look at as a positive moving forward. And they've got just as good of a chance as anybody to really take that next step in their overall progression as a unit with just how young they are. As I was saying, when this was done though, these games right here are ones that can define you as a coach, that can define you as a team in this specific era of your basketball organization. Or this is something that can motivate you, that can force you to really sit with this for a while, because they're going to have to. This is not something that you get over easily. It's something to think about, internalize, and try to work over the offseason to improve upon, so that when you get another shot like this, you do not miss it. Time will tell which of the two this Hawks team falls in. Because not on this night, with the way the Knicks played, were they really going to do much of anything. It just wasn't going to happen. Moving on to the 76ers and the Celtics. And this is also on Peacock at the same time. I had to watch the highlights of it because I did not get a chance to watch this game live. And hell, maybe at that point, if things are a certain way, of course you're going to have the broadcasting rights and everything kick in. If things are a certain way, you were better off just going over to a live feed of that instead of continuing to show a game in the Knicks and the Hawks that was already finished, but I digress. The 76ers came into this feeling pretty good about themselves, considering what they did in the last game. Still, at Philly, would take everything out of them to try to get the win again. And it did not start in the most optimal manner, they did jump out to a brief lead, and it grew to 7 after Tyrese Maxey was able to get in one of his patented three-point makes with the smooth pull-up jumper. The Celtics, though, have been in these situations time and again. And it is interesting when you think about it that way. I mean, this was a Celtics team that themselves, even through like a more recent stretch with what happened in the 2023 conference finals against Miami, they came back from down 0-3 and still lost. Of course, all other campaigns before then, seeing the Celtics team get near the mountaintop and come up just short in several fashions. So they've seen the positive and they've seen the negative of it. And you have the players here in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as he continue to put together a solid stretch of scoring here to keep them in the game. Have that nature about themselves to go out and work. Sam Hauser would eventually give them the 23-20 lead to end off the quarter before Philly started to turn it up, and I mean completely, in the second quarter. Man, this dude BJ Edgecombe is just electric. This man was out here just driving past everybody, getting smooth dunks out in transition over Jaylen Brown, of all people. Kelly Oubre Jr. was also just a fucking energizer bunny on both sides of the ball, which he can be, especially when he is at his best as a player. Using that athleticism to his advantage to just make these crazy plays that you typically wouldn't expect out of a 6'8 player. With that, the Celtics started to really slip. And the 76ers at this point, they were just taking the advantage of this entirely. You had a slew of just sloppy turnovers from this Boston team. And as a result, slowly but surely, the 76ers started to chip away. It's not like they had the craziest lead ever, but to recover from a 20-point quarter and then have Tyrese Maxey finish off with a floater, what was a 38-point second quarter, and have a 9-point lead at halftime, it's pretty ideal if you are in the 76ers position. Now, as I was watching the highlights of this, they cut out to Paul George talking with a sideline reporter. And he says, hey, we have to still pump up our defense a little bit more. Because once we do that, as long as we are starting to look and acquire the quality shots, we're going to end up being just fine in this game. And lo and behold, man, they completely blanketed Boston in the third quarter. Didn't help that Jaylen Brown as well, and I guess for the 76ers in this case, it does start and end with Paul George. I mean, first damn possession, Boston, one of the first possessions Boston gets, he just forces Jaylen Brown into a turnover with very solid defensive technique. And he's out there playing with the energy, playing with the firepower it takes defensively to strike that fear into the hearts of an opposing ball handler or offense entirely. That quality right there bled throughout the rest of the entire team. He was still on the money, getting out there for steals, making timely shots, and having other players as well benefit off of his particular play on the court this night. Now, you occasionally have the Celtics pull off a response here, and it would get back down to a 12-point lead, but then the 76ers continued to go on a flurry, just completely running the floor, past all of these Celtics defenders, not even allowing them to get much breathing room at all, and forcing their hand repeatedly. Paul George would have a masterful scoring quarter to pair up with his elite defensive play. And you still had other 76ers like Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid find their own shots. Now all of a sudden, backs against the wall, still trailing, the 76ers held a 19-point lead going into the fourth quarter, with a great chance to close it out and extend this game, and this series for that matter, to a seventh. Now we've seen over the past few how leads aren't safe and how, any number of things can happen in a given setting. And that would happen ever so slightly. After a while, if you are Boston, it's like, yes, you see the lead after Paul George got another reverse layup somehow. You see this increase to 23. You know you're in a position to close this game, and you want to make this as much of a battle as possible. You don't want to just allow the 76ers to run away with this completely. No, they gotta earn that. So what goes on from here? Well, with them starting to really take it to Philadelphia, forcing a tech, getting inside the paint, and trying at least to close the gap here, they were eventually able to decrease the lead to 15, posing a little bit of danger for the Celts and the 76ers for that matter in the spot. However, by that point, being a 98 to now 86 lead, as Baylor Shireman was also able to hit a massive step back jumper, the 76ers had the immediate answer and would not give up the lead at all, finishing the game with a 106 to 93 score, as somehow, some way, despite the Celtics holding the 3-1 edge just a few days back, and with me saying, oh, they're doing this to Philadelphia, this is why they're a championship contending team, all that. Now they're actually in a 7-game series with this team as well. In fact, they will face off against them tonight to decide, hey, who goes on to advance to the next round. And I'm thinking if it is the Celtics to do so, they'd be dealing with the Knicks there and would probably have the, I'm thinking it would have to be the Knicks facing off against the Celtics, or the 76ers facing off against a different opponent here. All that stuff will be said in time. It's not as of the recording of this video, which is very, very interesting, to say the least. But I don't think Celtics fans, you get Tatum back and you're thinking, hey, you're golden. I don't think they could have seen this kind of fight coming from Philadelphia in this series. And to add another wrinkle to it, apparently, Jason Tatum suffered a right calf strain. Now, there's no report that I've seen just yet on what his status is for this game. I will say, by the end of this video, I'll make it a point to check that out again and give an update there if there is one to be stated. But for now, there's not much clarity on it. And this was, something that could hurt the Celtics in theory. Watching the game, though, he went out with this injury while they were already trailing by around 20 points. So, and this was like later in the third quarter too. So, at that point, it's like, did it really make much of a difference to have Tatum out in that regard? No, because the 76ers were dominating them all over, especially towards that stretch of the second and third quarter. And the full advantage zone. Celtics, again, it's wild. They're going to have to be careful. And for this game, for the numbers, Jaylen Brown had 18 points and 2 assists with 5 turnovers on 7 of 17 shooting, while Jason Tatum had 17 points, 11 rebounds, as well on 6 of 13 shooting with a pair of threes. Peyton Pritchard struggled off the bench compared to his 30-plus point performance in the last game with 14 points on 6 of 16 shooting and 5 assists. Derek White as well is still just continuing to struggle in this series, man. I mean, sure, he's going to get less of the shots with Jason Tatum being back, but for him to be just 3 of 8 from the floor and score only 11 points rather, it's like, you're just expecting a little bit more out of him. I'm not going to lie. As for the 76ers, who would have thunk it, man? Who would have thunk it? Here they are, with an opportunity to, in a year where as soon as you lose Embiid after his seemingly regained health, you're thinking the worst about your season. And now, with him back, seemingly in good shape, and with the team rolling like this, they hold all the cards in this Game 7, even with it being in TD Garden, a hostile environment, of course. They are proving that they are built for these kinds of moments right here. And this will really be a measuring stick no matter what. They executed very nicely in this game and ultimately did every single thing they had to do in order to accomplish this job. Tyrese Maxey in this game had 30 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals on 11 of 22 shooting with 3 threes, while Paul George added 23 points, 2 steals, and a block on 8 of 17 shooting with 5 threes. So he was most certainly valuable. Considering that Embiid, while he did still have a near 20-point double-double, he struggled from the field and did also have 8 assists. Just even if you're expecting Embiid to do that, having him on the court at times for this squad can be just enough to keep that defense honest and open up other lanes to score, to drive, to shoot, whatever it takes to win, honestly. And if they can retain that kind of selfless mentality, that could bode well for them going into Game 7. VJ Edgecombe and Kelly Oubre Jr. each have 14 points and at least 8 rebounds, along with 2 blocks a pop as well. They did not get much help from their bench, and honestly, they didn't need to, per se. They could very much lean on that in the next game. You look across, the 76ers shot slightly better from the field and from 3. Had a much greater advantage in free throws, making 89.5 of theirs, compared to just 9 of 16 on the Celtics end. It's not even like the turnovers were completely out of whack. They came at just the right moments to give Philadelphia the energy that they never lost in the remainder of this game. That fueled everything else for them. Exceptionally crazy stuff when you think about it. Moving on to the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. And, of course, coming into this, they had that massive performance from some of their other role players to flank Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to win 125 to 113. And it felt like they were going to need a bit of that again. Because, as I'd said at that time, if you're going to ask them to have a big game, And for them to do it by themselves, it's going to become incredibly predictable after a while. And if they had to resort to that in this game, they were going to drop it. They had to find a way to establish their own pace on this thing early and often. Because if they allow the Timberwolves at any one point of time to start outrunning them and out shooting them, out rebounding them, etc., they were going to completely crumble in this game. They just did not have that kind of roster that can get out in space and do the same kinds of things that this Timberwolves team can do. They had to close off the paint and force them to take wild shots in other ranges on the floor. They themselves didn't have a brief lead in this game. Very quickly, though, that started to change. Enter Terrence Shannon Jr., who was getting his first playoff start because of course, the DiVincenzo injury, the Edwards injury. Also, Ayo Dosunmu was out with an injury for this game. They were shorthanded, and so they needed a guy to come in and play well for them to match that kind of pace. And if you know about Terrence Shannon Jr., even going back to his college career at Illinois, going back to his rookie season, and some of the minutes that he got in the playoffs last year, he is most certainly a slasher by nature. He has incredible athleticism. And he's a lefty, too. So the handle's going to be a bit more unconventional than you would expect from most in that situation. It's a dangerous combo to have. And especially when he was at Illinois, he used it to his full advantage. The fact that this Timberwolves team was able to get him as late as they did ended up being somewhat of a steal, especially compared to their decision to draft Robert Dillingham and then trade him. There's a reason why Terrence Shannon Jr. is still around. And that offensive firepower worked early for them as they would go on a 13-0 run with just having Shannon Jr. barrel downhill, drop up for crazy fucking dunks and finishes, even getting one past Jokic. And being the aggressor that they needed to set the tone. Very quickly, you also had Julius Randle follow as they continued to give him post looks, and as far as this game was concerned, he started to take a little more advantage of them. Also, defensively, they were able to force Nikola Jokic into like 3 early turnovers or something like that. And so, as I'm saying, like, hey, you can get the production from your open shooters if he can get the ball out, and then you instantly have them lose it. And it turns into more offensive production from Minnesota. Those are the kinds of things that could not happen in a game like this. And it just continued on and on and on. Now, in the Nuggets case, even with them going through that slump, offensively, they were able to recover. And when they have to outscore teams, if it is really what it boils down to, when they are accurate and when they are keeping their offense simple, they can go toe-to-toe with virtually anybody. They went on a 9-2 run while Tim Hardaway Jr. would also score 8 first-quarter points around this time. And before you knew it, they had the lead back, even if it was by just a single point, with one of the few Cam Johnson free throws that he made in this time. They were up by 1 at the end of the first quarter. And keep in mind, this was in Minnesota, so any kind of lead like that in a setting clearly meant to distract you and to get you out of your element. was very practical for them. They'd have to keep that momentum pushing forward. And these are where the non-Jokic minutes come in. Because, as I'd say, for the Nuggets, it had been dreaded for them, especially over the past few years, but they had started to improve on that this season. And the Timberwolves as well knew that in a game like this, these sequences were going to be hard to come by. They were going to be there. It's not like Jokic can play the full 48 minutes. So winning them, to sound like a broken record for the umpteenth time across all the recaps I've done, you have to take advantage of them. When a player who is that important to the entire function of the offense, he is the offense. You have to win when he's not on the court. And they began to, in ways. You'd occasionally have them make some good shots, but they just started dominating them in the paint. You don't technically have a rim protector, and Jokic is your biggest man by far on the team. That made everything else operate pretty smoothly as far as their willingness and their desire to just get 2 feet inside the paint and go to town. Even a guy like Jaden McDaniels, who himself was working on a pair of early fouls, which wasn't going to be necessarily helpful if he accrued any more, he himself was taking advantage of easy rebound opportunities, snagging one right over the mitts of Jamal Murray, because of course he's not going to beat him out on the glass. Just the little things continuing to go in favor of the Timberwolves. And what they saw at that point, just having them with a brief lead here, Jokic comes back in the game, and the Nuggets instantly begin to operate like a completely different team, at least occasionally on the offensive end. Jamal Murray was just very off in this game, and you had a number of misses from him in a row compiled with turnovers forced in one occasion by Terrence Shannon Jr. eating away at this team. And they held a 9-point lead, the Timberwolves did, with Julius Randle also getting it done from 3, before ultimately a dunk from Terrence Shannon Jr. would push it back out to 7 at halftime, with them up 57-50. If you're the Nuggets in this case, it's not the worst possible outcome to have at this time. But you needed everything to go your way in the second half if you wanted to win. Like, this is just not acceptable, because you get the 13-2 run here in that time span, as well as a 2 of 13 shooting stretch from Denver in the second quarter. There's no way they replicate something like that again, right? There's no way. Not with this team, not with these players, right? Foreshadowing. Yeah. Now, with all that being said, Jokic, which has been the case in some of these third quarters, ironically enough, would put together his best production. He instantly set the tone, just getting up simple shots, running quick 2-man sets with another ball handler, and getting to the range in which he will just loft up a floater like this and hit it. It's one of the most accurate shots in basketball for a reason. And he relied on that on several occasions. Just simple buckets to get into a rhythm, and he instantly started to sink his teeth into that Timberwolves defense, at least enough to battle back against the resistance they were showing. The Timberwolves themselves kept a fair pace throughout this quarter, And yet still, with all of that in mind, it was Jokic going for 14 points in this period, as he also secured a double-double and remained just a single assist away from setting the all-time record in triple-doubles, or at least resetting it. And I'd already prefaced that beforehand. Now, they had a 10-2 run at this time, and everything seemed to go according to plan for the Nuggets. This game got as close as 2 points. So they were right in it. They also managed to tie the game on multiple occasions. Yet still, with Jaden McDaniels, man, this is a sequence that you just cannot make up. Because let me see where I can find this. Because earlier in this quarter, you have Jaden McDaniels just guarding right up against Jamal Murray, and he alters the shot trajectory in the first attempt. Jamal Murray gets back the offensive rebound to try to put up another shot, and McDaniels hustles all the way over there with him, going stride for stride, and still has enough length on his wingspan to deflect the shot once again. And he was also just as much of an offensive threat, getting an and one in from short mid-range to increase the scoring output for the Wolves here in just a span of a couple minutes. And that is the kind of effort defensively that you can't always teach in a player. You either have it or you do not. Technique is one thing, and learning about the different terminology is another. You gotta have that dog in you if you are trying to be a two-way force. You have to. And that's why you see some of these players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like Anthony Edwards, when he is available, get a lot of praise. Because you have to. If you are going to commit to both sides of the ball like that, you need to have that consistent energy. And Jaden McDaniels, in a season of overall improvement for him, has proven to be that. Like, take this into account. By this time, as Jaden McDaniels still was trying to go to work and forced a timeout at around 2 minutes in the quarter, he forced Murray to shoot 1 of 8 when he was the primary defender. 1 of 8 from the field in this game. All this talk about bad defenders, all this talk about the Nuggets not having a good defensive team, well, he himself made it a point to guard one of the better offensive players and completely lock his ass up. Possession after possession after possession. And there was still nothing that the Nuggets could do about it. All they could do was rely and over-rely on their offensive talent to get them over the hump. Still, when you have these late runs to close out the quarters, Wolves went on a 13-5 run with Jaden McDaniels once again getting an easy look inside the lane before a silly Bruce Brown turnover also gave them the ball back. Had an 82-74 lead at the end of the quarter. And it all came down to the fourth. A time for the Nuggets to save their season and a time for the Timberwolves to prove that they could get it done without their best assets. Now, at times in this, it got a bit tricky. On one end, there was a very interesting situation early in the fourth quarter. They had a 6-point lead at the time, the Wolves did, with Jaden McDaniels once again making his name known and his presence felt. Nikola Jokic and Jalen Clark got wrapped up with each other. And as Nikola Jokic was walking away from it, he proceeded to get shoved in his back, and there was a bit of a scuffle, though not really much, as people just started to separate both sides pretty quickly, given what had already happened in Game 4 to end that one off. They did not want to repeat that, especially in this scenario. So they went to review this, and initially it looked like, okay, it was just Jalen Clark doing so at first, and then Nikola Jokic seemed to respond with a push of his own. And at that point, I'm thinking that what the broadcast team at the time, Doris Burke specifically, I thought what she said had some merit here. If that was the only thing that was seen in there. Because she was saying essentially, hey, Jalen Clark might be thinking, if I can get Jokic riled up and I can get him ejected from the game, it makes life easier on us. Because that's all they have. And that isn't incorrect thinking. Not in the least. Jokic is mostly an even keel player, but there have been several times across the season, there have been several times in this series where he's just pushed to his limit. And so he'll go out there and he'll do some risky things. That is fair. An ejection in that moment would take him out of the game and would limit the Nuggets' ability to do much else outside of him. However, the cause of what would proceed to happen from there, a double technical foul on both and no ejection, is that Naz Reid came in from behind and tried to shove Jokic with a little extracurricular as well. He also got a tech for that. If Reid wouldn't have swooped into this randomly, maybe they had a case there, but they just let it play on after, and that was a moment for them to get a bit of a twofer, which they did pull off through some time. In fact, the Nuggets got back within one consistently before Naz Reid was able to hit a very good shot from three-point range to force the timeout. So now at this point, both teams are getting deeper and deeper in foul trouble. Spencer Jones is in it, Nikola Jokic is in it, Jaden McDaniels is in it. Everybody was getting fucking... Everybody. So the key was to be careful here while also trying to make sure that you keep the lead in this game. Which the Timberwolves, with just a slick fucking pass to the corner from the left hand of Rudy Gobert, of all people, Terrence Shannon Jr. would make one. And to think at that moment, they were saying, hey, you know what? Maybe with the game on the line here, Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to come out. No. And if he was leaving with something. They extended the lead all the way out to 98-90, as Jaden McDaniels, especially at this game, as this game came down to the stretch, he made it a point again. He meant what he said, that this team has bad fucking defenders. Do you know how many times in this stretch of the game alone, he went after Jamal Murray and lit his ass up relentlessly, bullying him in the paint and using all of the size to his advantage for buckets that meant virtually everything to the Timberwolves. And in terms of the individual thing, I'll do this. They were saying it themselves as well on the broadcast. You know, there was a bit of a complex with him where, hey, with all these other guys out, I may be your best option in offense. And he more than proved that shit. So things just got very, very rough for the Nuggets after a while. And as close as this game was, Spencer Jones could not hit a shot. Jamal Murray could not hit a shot. Cameron Johnson, even with chances to get into this, could not hit a shot and still could not make free throws, as the amount of misses he accrued in this game started to eat away at the Nuggets' chances at winning this thing. Once Jaden McDaniels, for a potential dagger, took advantage of Jamal Murray once more, this is a 7-point ball game with around 1 minute and 7 seconds left. Despite this being clutch time, chances were slim, and they proved even slimmer once Jaden McDaniels himself forced another turnover. That was all she wrote. And still, with seemingly optimal chances, the Nuggets just crumbled. They had no more left in them. You could say that they gave it everything they had. You could say that they used up all of their opportunities and wasted them far earlier in this game before we even reached this point. No matter how you slice it, by the end of this game, the Nuggets were not fooling anybody. They were flawed. The Timberwolves, as some people would say, they broke them. And ultimately, although that two-man game is strong, it takes a team effort to win a game like this, to win a series like this. And the Timberwolves did that 110-98 as they would advance to face off against the Spurs on Monday. Yes. Damn. I'll start with the Timberwolves in that regard since they clinched. I mean, they deserve it, right? Especially when you look at Jaden McDaniels. You can say he was a shit starter. You can say he was the shit starter in this series. He closed this shit out with a 32-point, 10-rebound game. Game after game, he talked that shit and he backed it the fuck up because they do have him. Sure, they don't have Kevin Durant. He's here. He's shown you that now. In one of his best seasons as a player. And this is most certainly a playoff stretch he will not forget. Did all that on 13 and 25 shooting. Commanding a good portion of the shots for this team without Anthony Edwards, without Ayo Dosunmu, taking on that role as an offensive leader and getting it done. And despite that being his only three-pointer as well, Terrence Shannon Jr. had a great game in his first playoff start. And I was wondering, hey, how are they going to utilize him? What exactly is he going to do in this game? 24 points and 6 rebounds on 9 of 20 shooting, while being an unrelenting force as a slasher. Even apparently better defenders on this Nuggets team had no way of stopping him once he got a full head of steam. Not anybody. Julius Randle had 18 points with 2 threes and 5 assists along with 4 rebounds. Naz Reid had 15 points as well on 7 rebounds and 4 assists on 7 of 13 shooting. And Rudy Gobert had 10 points and 13 rebounds with 8 assists and not a single turnover. Now, again, the context of those assists, aside from that one to Terrence Shannon Jr., are just going to be simple handoffs. But that's still a crazy turn of events when Rudy Gobert, in a game where Nikola Jokic is going to be more highly regarded for his passing skill, was a more efficient passer in this game than him. There's also other context to that as well. You're not going to put the same amount of pressure on Rudy Gobert as you would Nikola Jokic, which is exactly what the Timberwolves did do early and often in this game, as that's stated. It's still wild to look at, though. That is crazy. And I know why. It makes things very interesting for them heading into a series against San Antonio. That should be incredibly interesting, especially when looking at the battle of the Frenchmen at the big position. That'll be something to watch, obviously. They can definitely, with their defense, keep themselves in any of these games, especially if they do force the Spurs themselves to shoot three-pointers and close off the paint. Easier said than done, especially with Wembanyama being at the helm. But that's kind of what it's going to take. Use their same defensive style against them and see how they perform overall. You have to do whatever it takes to give yourself a chance. Because it is probably a bit slimmer with not having Anthony Edwards out there. I think that's a given. And they still, to this point, don't know the timetable for his return. They just say, yeah, he may end up missing multiple weeks. This is going to be a very big test for them. The Nuggets are their own team, of course. The Spurs are probably a level above that. As we stand. So the task isn't even going to be as easy. You're going to have to do 10 times the work here just to even get yourself a game. But nothing is impossible. And at least the Wolves can say that, hey, they have now advanced, and they do have an opportunity to take this team down if it gets to that point. They wouldn't want to be in any other spot. And for the Nuggets in this, on one end, which is crazy, because while I didn't hear through it, something that I saw that Chris Finch said really stood out. And it brings it all back full circle. In the postgame presser, he said, and I quote, "They chose us. They didn't have to choose us. They chose us." End quote. Yeah. Rarely do you want to put yourself in positions of regret if you're a team in the NBA. This all, when you see that they lost the series in 6 games, it centers directly back to the same Spurs team that they were facing in the final game of the regular season that I recapped for them with no Victor Wembanyama playing. And as I mentioned in that video and what is relevant now, they sat Nikola Jokic out at halftime for the 65-game rule and still kept other players in at this time. As the Spurs in this game, looking back at it, although they were fairly competitive, this team had consistently gotten the better of San Antonio at this time. And they won once again on that fateful day of April 12th by 10. Giving them the matchup versus the Timberwolves in the first round. And knowing what we knew at that time, the Lakers would go on to beat the Jazz because of course they did. If the Nuggets would have lost that game, they would have had to deal with the Rockets. And so it brings up an interesting conversation there. Because as some people have most certainly echoed throughout this entire tanking thing, teams themselves and players themselves are not trying to intentionally throw games for the betterment of their approach to the draft strategy, of their approach to scheduling in the postseason. They're not intentionally thinking about that. They're not trying to go out there and lose these games, throw them away for the sake of all those ulterior motives. That's not where their head is at. Yet at the same time, again, knowing what we know now, and as I was saying then, the Rockets would have been a much easier opponent. This Timberwolves team has been crafted by Tim Connolly. And as I've referenced before, to rehash the point in a brief way, if you haven't understood this same executive who is now a part of the Timberwolves team actually created majority of the roster, now minus Michael Porter Jr., that is there in Denver. The same man responsible for discovering Jokic in the second round, the same man responsible for getting Jamal Murray, is the same damn team and the same damn executive that pulled off the moves to get Bones Highland, who was most certainly feeling himself after that win, who got Anthony Edwards, who brought over Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo and so on and so forth, all just to take down this Denver team. And what's been happening over the past few years? As these teams have faced off against each other the most times in terms of any pairing of opponents in the NBA over the last few seasons, and have played each other in the playoffs on a nearly annual basis. It's been showdown after showdown. And the last couple times, they've been won by the Timberwolves. They understood that was on the line. They won the Spurs game anyways. Again, you don't want to come out here and say, oh, we should have lost that game just to get a handle on the Rockets. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it makes Chris Finch's point correct. In ways, the ball was in your court, literally. It was a home game. You did not have to really win it. You didn't have to throw Jokic out there and feel compelled to, even though, yes, they took him out at halftime just to fulfill the 65-game requirement, as dumb as it was. They made those decisions, and now they're going to have to live with those results and this for at least the next year. That is the only way they'd even have a chance of getting back to this point in time. Because their season is now over as a result of it. And the way in which they lost this was tough. Now again, Minnesota didn't shoot the ball particularly well, just making 24.1% of their three-point shots. They got out-rebounded by 17. They were beaten on the offensive glass by 13, and they also allowed 64 points in the paint. The Nuggets are still going to be more of a three-point shooting team and still had just 75 shots in the game and 27 attempts from three. Even more revealing than that, In essentially the last 8 minutes of the game, with the series and the season on the line, the Nuggets made all but one field goal. Let me repeat that. In the last 8 minutes of an elimination game, they made one field goal. One. Like I said, they could not buy a shot. Exhaustion could creep in. A lack of rhythm could creep in with it. Whatever excuse you want to come up with. One field goal in the final 8 minutes of what would be their entire season. And at that point, that's not just one player. That's not just one core mistake. No, it's several players not doing their jobs. It's several mistakes accumulating over that time to force this. As good as a team can be, and as great as a team has been in the era, this is an unacceptable way to go out. It just is. And I'm sure that they know that. Like, just, you got a little bit of help from Cameron Johnson, who would have 27 points on 8 of 15 shooting in this game. You have got to hit your free throws when it counts. He was perfect from the field to start out the game. And that little bit of slippage cost them, because virtually no one else outside of Nikola Jokic was picking up the slack. Yes, Jokic had 28 points and 10 assists with 9 rebounds on 11-19 shooting. And again, thank goodness, honestly, he did not get the triple-double, because that would genuinely be heartbreaking to accomplish something that is that great of a milestone in a season-ending loss. Just save it for the next season. He'll probably get it early, and he'll have the time to actually relish in it, potentially in front of his own home crowd. That couldn't have mattered at all in a game like this, win or loss. So you just save it for them. Jokic played every single minute of the second half. Every single minute. No need to worry about the non-Jokic minutes if you are actively going to have this same Denver team who recognizes that he will need moments of rest. Tire him the hell out, because no one else is executing well enough on this night. All 24 minutes of the second half saw him on the court with at least a number of different rotations. And still, no one else could find their rhythm outside of Cam Johnson occasionally. Tim Hardaway Jr. again had the hot start and finished with 13 points. Was virtually quiet after the first quarter. Jamal Murray shot 4 of 17 in this game for 12 points and was made out to be a defensive liability. Now again, you can't ask him to do much against Jaden McDaniels. Typically, it should be a guy like Cameron Johnson lining up against him. He was still in foul trouble at this point. And they sought him out, they hunted him, and they caught his ass. And that is the story of this. they have the team in theory and on paper to get this done. And hell, getting a truly productive and a bit more well-rounded of a player in Cameron Johnson compared to Michael Porter Jr. was a smart trade in the offseason. That was supposed to raise the floor of this team. And instead, in terms of placement in the overall campaign, they took a step back. So now you're left scrambling, really trying to figure out what the hell it is you have to do in this offseason. Are you trying to improve the roster? Once more, who exactly is going to get released from the team? It all starts and ends with Jokic and Murray right now. And outside of that, aside from a few players like Cameron Johnson, Aaron Gordon, probably Peyton Watson, you have a lot of different questions and very few answers right now. They're going to have to go searching for them. And trust me, they're going to need any that they can get their hands on. And so that was okay. That was a lot for those three. Oh man, I didn't think I was going to spend that much time on that, but okay. It's fun though. That's proper context. I gotta be fair with that. Okay. Moving on to the Pistons and Magic yesterday. In a similar situation here, with Cade and them having to rely on Cunningham to save their asses in Game 5, despite Montero also going balls to the wall in that game. They now had this game in Orlando. The Magic are still not finished, as Jamal Mosley said, and they have an opportunity in front of home court to take this Pistons team down once and for all. Started about as well as it possibly could have for the Magic on a weekend where the Hawks, as I talked about at the top of the video, surrendered what they did in half number 1. Well, the Magic made it a point to get out in front early. Aside from a 2-1 lead in the early portions of the first quarter, they just started running all over this team, with Jamal Cain hitting three-point shots, with Wendell Carter Jr. getting inside the paint, and fish filleting Jalen Duren one more time for good measure. They were starting to really settle in to their own offensive flow here. And at least the Pistons in the first quarter, they have resistance to that because Tobias Harris still wanted to make as much out of this series for himself. And Dennis Jenkins also gave them a little bit of life off the bench once they decided to sit down Cade Cunningham. So there were a few players early making some impact plays for this Pistons team. Finally. And with Dennis Jenkins hitting another three-pointer late, they did hold a 26-25 lead at the end of the first quarter. Then the second quarter came in. And the Magic completely took it over. I mean, completely. They did everything they wanted to, primarily through driving down into the lane and creating physical, high-percentage contact finishes and dunks. That made up the first few scores of this quarter for them. And it just did not stop up until Jalen Suggs was actually able to make a three-pointer. Desmond Bane followed suit. This team was flowing in a rhythm the entire time. And the Pistons, on the other hand, they were smothered. Completely smothered. The Magic were all over them, which is what they wanted. To be the front runners here, get their full heads of steam, and railroad over them throughout the rest of this game. That's exactly what they wanted. And as this second quarter went on, although the Pistons were able to get within briefly 13 points, that diminished as they would go on another 11-2 run at the end of the quarter, with Paolo Banchero continuing to get to the free throw line and make timely shots to give this Magic team a 22-point lead at the half, as the Pistons, the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, were down 60-38 last night. And to make matters even worse for the Pistons, because they were absolutely deep shit, once Desmond Bane, with his short-ass arms, somehow got a reverse layup in, they trailed by 24 points at the 11-minute, 11-second mark. You cannot make that up. The Magic had autonomous control of this game. It was in their hands. They could taste and smell the scent of flawless victory in their midst. They could smell it. It was only a few short minutes away now. And they had this Pistons team inefficient all game long up to this point. Cade Cunningham was rendered ineffective all game long at this point. With the way they were playing him as well early, that was going to be a given. And that was part of the plan. Once you got the ball out of Cade Cunningham's hands, you knew that no one else is going to do shit. On the Pistons' end, similarly to that point, when exactly is that next person going to step up? Your season's on the line, and you are still putting all of the onus on Cade Cunningham. Who else is coming along for the ride? The moment he is inefficient, and granted all series long, you can argue that he's been inefficient. Not even necessarily in terms of field goal percentage the whole way, in terms of assist to turnover ratio. He's been handled that way. And you have no other way to generate offense than to relieve him of that pressure. You have no other way to do that at all. Somebody else had to dig deep and find this. Now again, it's still early enough in the third quarter for wild things to happen. But as long as the Magic could continue to play at their style, they were going to close this out. They were going to win this entire series. They were going to be the 9th team to pull off an upset of a 1 seed in NBA playoff history. The recipe was fully laid out for them. Everything was seemingly in alignment for them. And they still fucked everything up. Still. They slowly but surely allowed this Pistons team to come all the way back, with one of the worst shooting performances you will ever see in your life. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. All right. And 24-point lead. All right. Series on the line. A chance to advance to the second round of the playoffs. And you missed 23 fucking shots between the third and fourth quarter. You allow Cade Cunningham to put up 19 fucking points in the fourth quarter to allow them to come all the way back from 24 down to win the game by 14. And they also, in the same fucking time span that the Hawks put up one of the worst halves of basketball you will ever see in a playoff setting. The same danger that they were facing to become the first team since the New Jersey Nets in 2004 to put up a half lower than 25 points. You want to know what the fucking Magic did last night? They put up a 19-point second half. The worst in playoff history. To lose this shit. How the fuck do you do that? Are you fucking kidding me? And I'm watching this back because this was not live. This was on prom yesterday. Losing my fucking mind as to how a team can be that incompetent. You're gonna clinch the game if you hold on to the lead. And you miss 23 straight shots in a row while putting up an 8-point fourth quarter. What in the absolute fuck is wrong with this team? There's gotta be something. This shit has to be studied. They barely scraped by to get into the playoffs in the first place. And you had a 3-1 lead on this team heading into Game 5. Granted, that one was close. And then you get into this game, and that's how you perform in a late game situation. It is absolutely fucking pathetic. This is one of the most pitiful performances you will see from a team in any stretch of time. How the fuck? This is just like, I'm gonna run out of words to say at this point. It is insane. And thankfully for the Pistons, in the same time, you had at least Duncan Robinson step up and hit some huge shots in this, as they were still making the full-fledged comeback. They proceeded to take a fucking 14-point lead at multiple points. If you are a true hardcore Magic fan out there, you're sick to your fucking stomach with this team. It is right out there in front of you, and you can't fucking close a game. And I'm telling you, because they will fuck around, and as you know, other things have been stated, they will fuck around and fire Jamal Mosley if they do lose this series. If they lose this shit, they will fuck around him and fire him in a second. It will not take much time for them to make that decision. And although Mosley is an okay coach, there are two reasons why that would be the case. If they then proceed to lose this game that they will have tomorrow in Detroit, by the way, allowing this team to gain all of their momentum back, heading into their home turf with that home crowd now motivated after the season that they have acquired to this point. They're going to be raucous out there. You can imagine the setting in that Little Caesars Arena. You can only imagine what that's going to be like tomorrow. And thank you, Orlando, you fucking handed it to them. There will be 2 reasons why Jamal Mosley will be fired if this game is lost by Orlando tomorrow. And yes, some of it comes down to the lack of execution on the court because you can't put up 19 fucking points in a playoff half and expect to win. This is not the fucking 1950s in the earliest days of the fucking postseason. You cannot do that shit. That is one of the last times you would ever see a fucking 19-point half. Especially to close the game out. Some of that does come down to a lack of execution from the very players on the court. When you look at Paolo Banchero and Jalen Suggs combining for 24 points on 5 of 30 shooting and 1 of 15 from deep. What the fuck do you think you're possibly going to get away with having 2 of your better players shoot like that? Then you want to make the point that, yes, Franz Wagner would be ruled out of this game. You think he would still come back and save them from some shit like this? That's one man. You have most of your team still here, and this is how they choose to play on this night. Hell no. You can't do it. But 2 reasons for Mr. Jamal Mosley. As I've already stated, the 19-point half up 3-2 in this series. And going back to game 2 with a chance to win that one because it was still relatively even, a 33-6 run in the third quarter. To then lose that game by 15 in nearly the same way at the start of that third quarter. 2 runs of completely different variations. 33-6 and then 55-19 overall last night are the difference between you potentially having advanced in this series through 5 games than potentially losing in fucking 7. Combined runs of 88-25 in late game scenarios have cost you nearly everything in this series. And that will be the reason. Those will be the reasons why if they lose this game tomorrow night, his ass is gone. Because at some point, while it is an execution thing, what are you telling these players in the locker room? What are you saying to them? Do you really have them fulfilling the requirements they need to hit out there to execute in the right way? Or are you just standing around like Darvin Ham with your hands in your fucking pockets? What are you actually doing out there? That has to be put into question. Because that is fireable. You can't possibly be leading a team of players going out there doing that. You have to give credit to the Pistons for Duncan Robinson, providing them with 14 points on 5 of 11 and 5 of 11 shooting 4 threes, for giving them some help. For Tobias Harris putting up a 22-point double-double with 10 rebounds. For having Cade Cunningham, again, a 19-point fourth quarter, and finishing with 32 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, and a block, stuffing the stat sheet, shooting 10 of 23 from the field, putting up 2 threes from deep. That's cool. That's great. He's a great player. And in chances where he's gotten room to operate, he's carved this team up all series long. Maybe that was a given. But you allowed that 24-point lead to escape from your grasp. You allowed it to happen. You gave this shit to them, and now they are about to take this thing the full fucking mile and eliminate you from the playoffs, dude. That is just unacceptable. I can't believe that. I can't believe that shit, dude. Like, if I spend any more time on this game, I'm just gonna lose my mind. They better not lose tomorrow. They better not lose tomorrow. Oh my goodness. They better not. They better not. Mosley is gone the very second that happens. You want to see how much, we feel, I guess a bit discontent with the idea of having all these different players in college sports leave the very second that a coach moves on from an organization through the transfer portal and stuff like that. You're going to get a similar kind of report with them relieving Jamal Mosley of his duties if they lose this game tomorrow. Because holy shit. Like, literally, you can't have something like that happen. And you are at a point, you're the head coach. These decisions, the approach, it runs through you in your own direction. And they're going opposite of that. What does that say about you? Ridiculous. Pathetic is this team. Absolutely pathetic. I mean, I'm going to move on. Because from one pathetic game to an instant Heartwood Classic between the Cavs and the Raptors. And the fact that this game was not live either, all these games were on Prime last night, they should have at least found a way to put this one on live television. Because missing out on this was an absolute crime. To where I made the decision at the moment, as I was tracking the game through play-by-play, that I'm going to replay this back when I get the chance. And I was kind of gassed, but I did get a chance to watch it all back live. Man, I was very much excited that I made that decision and did not spoil myself at all, because this was an absolute showcase. I can't even lie to you. Like, this is one of those playoff games, man, where it's like, dude, anything can happen. The odds were in both teams' favor for quite a while, and then the ending. But we'll get there. Because you have to get the full context of everything else that happened. First, the Raptors and Cavs at this point were dead even in the first quarter in terms of scoring. And, of course, with the Cavs coming off of that Game 5, maybe having figured out the Raptors a little bit in their defensive approach, despite some early turnover issues, they were still able to crank out a good amount of scoring, especially from Evan Mobley in this one, more so, to start out the game. Donovan Mitchell and James Harden in this first quarter were still struggling a little bit. They still had enough to force collapses inside the paint and create open shots for other players like Max Strus, who would also have a pretty solid first quarter entering this. Meanwhile, on the other end, Scotty Barnes was a force unto himself. He would get Jared Allen good on multiple occasions from the jam perspective after missing the one that did eventually lead to him getting free throws anyways in game 4. This man was just truly pulling out some moves I hadn't expected him to make. Not only was he getting 2 feet inside the restricted area and just punishing defenders at the rim, he was also getting some spin around jump shots from closer range and making them. And even the broadcast team playing it back made a good point that he has taken strides in improving as a close to mid-range shooter further than, 4 feet, 5 feet away from the basket. He's been much better than that, and you've seen it through the strides that he's taken this season, even if it doesn't necessarily look the part as an overall scorer. That, if he can continue to improve on it, oh boy, he's going to be even more of a monster than he already is as a two-way presence. And that's before you even get into R.J. Barrett, the hometown kid, getting off to a pretty solid start in this game as well. Also, man, you have to shout out Jacoby Walter too. Walter, as I mentioned, went scoreless in game 4 and still played with all that hustle in that game. So the energy is there, and considering that this man is a second-year player out of the Scott Drew system at Baylor that did win the 2021 national championship against Gonzaga, I would imagine that he would know something about that exact kind of effort right there, playing alongside Davion Mitchell on that same team. So he's more than got that capability in him. As a scorer and as a shooter over the past few games, he's been hot. He was one of their leading scorers in Game 5 and made 6 of his 14 three-pointers, and then also had a tremendous start from the efficiency standpoint to this game, when the Raptors still had their backs against the wall, still gave the Cavs a little bit of momentum heading into Scotiabank in this one. They needed this game or their season was going to be done. Over. But you're in a deadlock and it's early. Let's just say that defense ramped up incredibly in the second quarter for Toronto as they started to do what they do best. And to the point where their advantage in fast break opportunities and points stood at such a vast disparity up until the fourth quarter, really. It got started here. And in ways, it starts and ends with each and every single one of their young players making an impact. At a specific point in this game, they mention that R.J. Barrett, with a specific rotation out there of, I believe, Colin Murray Boyles, Jamal Shed, Scotty Barnes, and also Jacoby Walter. R.J. Barrett was the oldest player on the team at 25. So the youth movement is most certainly a part of their entire system. And yet they still play as hungry as any. All of them had at least a few good deflections made, just jumping some of these passes in similar ways that they were in Game 5, early at least, to run past the entire team in these instances and create easy opportunities at the rim. You have a bit of back and forth because, of course, that's how it's going to be. And then Scotty Barnes is just, oh my gosh. This dude's a freak, okay? Yeah, over the course of what was a 17-6 run at some point in the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken, this motherfucker, okay, you have him running past I believe it was James Harden trying to slow him down and stop the ball out in transition. This nigga pulls off a spin move, keeping the ball on a string and having it extend so far out, creating so much space between him and the next man. And then he just crashes into the rim and demolishes the living hell out of Jarrett Allen at the summit. He got right over top of him, jammed it up with 2 fucking hands, and absolutely posterized the shit out of this man. For the second time this game, that's 2 times. That get back is a motherfucker. He should have had the and 1 in game 4. He knew that, and he took it personally. Jarrett Allen, the poor guy himself, who I will say, first few seconds of the game, this man on a reverse dunk drops face first on the ground with what looked to be a concussion. And he still played for a good portion of this game. To my surprise, I thought at that point, you're gonna take him out. And still, they didn't stop the play up until a foul was committed. Just stop the action. He's literally sprawled out on the ground and was just still for a few seconds. They noted, you don't have it in you to just pause the action for just a second. I don't understand why. That's so weird. Nevertheless, man, with that kind of momentum on their side, those guys kept hitting. Jacoby Walter continued to hit the shots that he did get. A lot of them being open with the kind of pressure that they were creating on the interior, along with Colin Murray-Boyles continuing to be an exceptional athlete. The Cavs as a whole, when it came to their perimeter shooting, they started to diminish a little bit on top of the turnovers and on top of the Harden and Mitchell struggles, which is typical for Harden around this time of year. Anyways, with all of that being said, the Raptors would hold a 61-51 lead at half. Not as much offense taking place at that particular point compared to Game 5. Still, you could say, this is a little bit of the Cavs style of game. Then you had the Raptors in the second quarter impose it. Who was going to win the third quarter? Once more, you got a deadlock here again. Because the Cavs, recognizing the situation, they decided that, hey, we're going to keep leaning on our big men. If James Harden is going to be made into more of a passer, we're going to trust him to make the right reads. And for the most part, when he wasn't getting the living shit blitz out of him, he was. Mobley continued to eat on some pretty good looks. And you also had Jarrett Allen and Dennis Schroeder continue to come back in, take a little bit of the pressure off, and diminish the lead bit by bit. It's not like RJ Barrett or Walter or Barnes, especially, were cooling down much at this point either. No, they were still relatively efficient, still held a large enough lead in this game, and were still up by as much as 12. With around 2 minutes left, once Colin Murray-Boyles had himself an elite two-way sequence, not only getting himself a free bucket on a floater here, but also getting out and blocking the hell out of Donovan Mitchell, who was still in a relative struggle at this point. The thing is that the Cavs, through it all, would start to turn the tides from the end of the third, starting in the fourth quarter. Because while the Raptors would occasionally have Scotty Barnes get a well-timed shot, which it did start out with, very quickly as Darko Rajakovic had to use up a few of his timeouts, Dean Wade was making his shots. Donovan Mitchell started to settle back into this game. And just like that, it was tied. In fact, when you get further and further into it, although it did take a while for the Cavs to ultimately get over the hump here, at a time in this fourth quarter, the Raptors had just 2 points in the last 6 minutes of play. And their shooting was on a similar cold stretch to that of Game 5, where they went 5 of 20 in the second half in terms of three-point shooting. Very similar to that. Just generalized from the field now. And with the Cavs now having their own defensive pressure, especially with some of the turnovers they were able to force against Scotty Barnes and against RJ Barrett, with one of these rolling out of bounds, they were starting to play the game within the game a bit better. And you get in the clutch time, the Raptors continue to hold a brief lead, but Mitchell and those guys are just nipping at the bud. Walter, once again, with a well-timed three-point make once again, showing that, hey, he very much taken those strides. And even they mentioned that he was a 47% shooter after the All-Star break. So it hasn't been uncommon for him. And you can understand then why a player like him would be in the lineup and Grady Dick is not in the rotation for a series like this. When you're on that kind of a tear since then, still, Evan Mobley was right there with an automatic response. And it was just like this over and over again. Then the final minute ensues after Scotty Barnes makes a single free throw, and you just have these teams both trying to make the heroic shot. Both of them do not go according to plan. But with the Raptors here turning the ball over, which would end up standing, the Cavs try to drop a play, and they get it off of the inbound from Max Strus over to Evan Mobley as he just peruses his way into the block, scoops up a shot, and puts in the finger roll to tie up ball game at 104 all with 11 seconds left. And I'm tracking it. I'm like, oh, shit. Well, there's no pressure for you there. It's a tied ball game. You're on your own home court. You don't even need a three to win. You can get any shot you want to. They just have to set it up properly. Well, when I watched it back through the full broadcast, they dished it all the way back out to Scotty Barnes, and at that point, through a good amount of work, he eventually passed it over to Jamal Shed. Unfortunately, this shot was contested by Jared Allen, and so although he hadn't shot well all game, and there would still be even more with him specifically in just a bit, he missed this on a double clutch attempt, which is fair. This is one of the smallest players on the court, and you're asking him because Jared Allen, to his credit, played tremendous defense, despite them trying to set up a decoy with Colin Murray Boyles running out. And through that area of the court, he stood his ground and was there the whole way. He was on. Not much you can do about that, even if that's what the Raptors are trying to draw up. Most certainly couldn't have been the plan. But you have overtime. And so, damn, crazy feeling to have that in an elimination game. But you would see these teams put their full effort out on display, and that is what it is all about. The Cavs, although this one wasn't going to be so predicated on offensive production, it was all about matching the output over and over and over again. And to their credit, they did actually have James Harden come through on a couple of occasions, including one such play to take the lead. with 1:36 left. However, Scotty Barnes would get a response, which was dished out by Jamal Shead, who was actually in danger of fouling out. He had 3 fouls in the first half, and James Harden drawn foul a couple possessions earlier actually forced him to nearly be out for this game, if not for Rajakovic still having a challenge at this point. Just think about that. Kenny Atkinson had used up all of his, and Rajakovic still had one in the toolbox. And he used it, and they saw that Dean Wade gave Jamal Shead a little extra nudge before he was trying to get over this screen. And so, through that review, the challenge was overturned. Jamal Shead, one of their better defenders, remained in the game, and it was still even throughout this point. Now, you got a little sloppy here as James Harden once more tried to be the hero that you'd want him to be, getting traded to this team at the trade deadline to bring them into championship contention. Scotty Barnes would eventually come up with the ball here after Evan Mobley coughed it up, but the defense on the other end stayed relatively sound. Donovan Mitchell isn't necessarily known as a defender, but he got revenge on Colin Murray-Boyles by blocking one of his layup attempts and proceeded to get a high screen, drive right to the rim, and get his patented smooth layup off the glass to give them a 110-108 lead with 33 seconds left. Then they had Jamal Shead line up and get down to the paint against Jared Allen of all people. He actually got him with a decent move and was able to get to the free throw line. They didn't have to jinx him like this. He only had one free throw attempt in this entire series and was not the best of free throw shooters in the regular season. Now, he did make the first one. Unfortunately for him, still down by one, he missed the other one. And I'm like, no, that's tough for Jamal Shead. Oh my goodness. Both teams were in the bonus by this point. However, Scotty Barnes committed a take foul, inducing a side out for an inbounds play that the Cavs could still set up if they needed to. So they get it into Dennis Schroeder in the backcourt. And he's being pressured a little bit, bringing this ball up. And as he gets near the half-court line, he tries to fire it over to Evan Mobley, who then gets it. But for the Raptors, it was Colin Murray-Boyles, as I was playing it back in real time, jamming the ball out of Evan Mobley's hands. It apparently went off him, and they called it a turnover on Cleveland, which is exactly what the Raptors needed down by one. They needed to force a turnover. That was going to be your best chance. And they got it. Kenny Atkinson was thinking about challenging it, and they didn't have any more. There could be some cases in which, if you zoom in, if you get a chance to review it, maybe the ball did go off of Colin Murray-Boyles if you look hard enough. They got no such chance because of all of the challenge opportunities being used up on their end. So now it was Toronto's chance to do it once again. They won their home games in this series. The home team has won each and every single game in this series, and yet still it all came down to this. Win or go home, Game 6 of this conference quarterfinals game between these two teams, where it seemed like it was going to go in a completely different direction in the first two games. Toronto had to make it interesting over the last few, and Cleveland could potentially finish with the last laugh if they close it out here. Toronto as well, this team, of course, has taken massive strides this season. Their first playoff appearance since 2022. And with this young core, they had a chance to do something truly special on this night to extend this series, and potentially, if they were to extend it and then win again, get their first playoff series win in quite some time. And so the entire Scotiabank Arena in Toronto was waiting to see what exactly would happen. And as I was tracking it, there must have been a glitch. But man, I waited. And I waited to watch the true finish to that game, and I couldn't have been even remotely disappointed by what the hell I saw. They drove deep in to the paint with Scotty Barnes handling the basketball. And the criteria for the same shot style in regulation stood. You didn't necessarily need a three-pointer to win the game. You could settle for two as well. And apparently, Scotty Barnes was like to RJ Barrett. Hey, if I don't have anything here, I'm going to pass it out to you. And they proceeded to crowd the paint, build a wall, as time is trickling down. He finds RJ Barrett out there on a rope. And now, if you're the Cavs, you're scrambling. Your last line of defense and Evan Mobley gets out there and contests this fairly well. It's a 6'11" Evan Mobley on a 6'5", possibly RJ Barrett. It's a strong contest from a defensive player of the year candidate type player here. Anything could have happened. And I don't think anybody was prepared for what would go down next. Because in the most climactic way possible, this shit quinked off the back of the rim, flicked all the way up in the air, and on a straight line to save the season. It was RJ Barrett cashing home a three-pointer with 1 second left, a single second left to go in this ball game. And I'm like, damn, he actually hit that. On the broadcast, they were saying it was Tyrese Halliburton-like when he pulled it off in Game 1 against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They were saying it was Paolo Banchero-like when they won in Game 4 to go up 3-1 with the lucky-ass shit he hit off the back of the rim there, off the heel. It had been very kind to them, and man, was it generous to RJ Barrett as well. That kind of thing is more Dame-esque to me, with a shot that he hit from three-point range in the bubble that has constantly circulated around over the past few years. And just think about that. This is where RJ Barrett's from. This is a 25-year-old kid who had been traded to this team after some solid, again, playoff performances, but a good amount of struggles with the Knicks specifically. And now he's here with a chance to take them on a deep run. And in the first round, it comes down to that, and he hits the shot. You just can't make a better story than that. And by goodness, they got it done. Now, the Raptors still had a job to do defensively. 1 second left. It's not much to do anything with. But the Cavs still could get a shot off. And with Evan Mobley missing it just off the front of the rim, in overtime. The Raptors won it 112-110. Another home game for them where they had to thug it out the whole way, and they still extend this to a 7-game series, with that to be played tomorrow. And aside from the Knicks, after the shit that they pulled, the other 3 Eastern Conference playoff series are all in Game 7s now. Of course, with some of the Achilles injuries suffered, and some of the other injuries that have taken place throughout this entire season, it's been said that the Eastern Conference was going to be wide open. And here we are. 3 different series with 6 different teams of varying expectations in regards to championship contention are all in the same boat right now. And the Raptors can say that even with them being down 0-2 initially, they are still in the fight, very much in it, and have a chance to win. It's a very crazy time. For their numbers here, Scotty Barnes had 25 points, 14 assists, and 7 rebounds with 3 blocks on 11 of 21 shooting. RJ Barrett had 24 points and 9 rebounds, along with 3 assists, but like he said himself, he did not have a single make from the field in quite some time between the fourth and overtime. In fact, the Raptors combined for just 20 points between the fourth quarter and overtime. We look at it that way, as they also said on the broadcast. And still, he hit the game-winning shot that mattered the most. Jacoby Walter also had 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals, along with a block in his start, shooting 7 of 13 from the field with 4 3-pointers. Just proving to be a valuable asset to this team in several different ways. And yeah, you gotta give Colin Murray-Boyles love here, playing 40 minutes in foul trouble for the most part, yet still finished with 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks on 6 of 10 shooting. No matter who is making the impact on this team, it is all leaning to something conducive to success. And they really try to incorporate that and preach that. And man, has it been working for them right now. Just impressive stuff. As they head back to Cleveland, where even after winning a game like this, as I've said, you have got to find a way to recover instantly. Got to have some short-term memory, because you have to do something like that again. You have to try to win the next game. So that could be an interesting kind of pressure to have. But you can believe that the Raptors are most certainly attempting to game plan for this as we speak. Same goes for the Cavs. Through all of those struggles, they still kept it close themselves. And it was a great game from Evan Mobley that kept them afloat. He had 26 points and 14 rebounds along with 3 assists on 9 of 15 shooting with 3 threes. Donovan Mitchell has just not done well in Toronto. His 24 points and 5 rebounds along with 2 assists would be created from 11 of 26 shooting with just a couple of threes, rather. And James Harden, he did almost have a triple-double with 9 rebounds and 9 assists. Still a 5 of 14 shooting performance for 16 points, even though he still almost got them in the running with those couple of big-time mid-range shots. In overtime, just have to perform way better than that in a setting like this. And we're having the same song and dance with Harden every single time about this. We know this is a pattern at this point. You just truly hope that he shows up for Game 7. And it's going to be tricky. Like, he did get hella flack for putting up, like, what was it? Like 9 shots or something like that in the Game 7 against the Nuggets in the first round with the Clippers. Got hella flack for it. This Cavs team is going to need him to distribute well. And in this game, aside from the turnovers, he kind of did. So I don't know if that role would really change all that much in the next game. Especially if you want to have Evan Mobley continue to do that. But the jury will still be out there on it until it happens. And Jarrett Allen had 14 points, along with 7 rebounds and 2 blocks in this game as well. Cavs dominated the glass. They had 52 rebounds, and they had 19 offensive boards. They were able to force 15 turnovers themselves. But the Raptors, in a game on the margins as well, they had a few more points off of turnovers. They were just a little bit cleaner in protecting the basketball, and they had 20 fast break points to just 6 for the Cavs. Along with a shot that could be series defining and a moment in a career for RJ Barrett that stands out among the rest of them, especially if they can continue to get past this point, especially if they can make a deep playoff run stemming from this very moment in time. Truly classic game, to say the least. Again, I did not anticipate spending this much time on a video with less overall action. But especially with that game in account, it's like, that's what the playoffs are all about. You gotta understand. Like, when you have a game going on like that, you can't expect a person to completely diminish all qualities of that into just a few short minutes. It's truly beautiful stuff. You have to witness in real time in order to believe. And it happened just like that. And then, you know what? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Because I did watch the highlights for this, but moving into the Lakers and the Rockets, and yeah, I'll be brief about this. We're a couple hours in. I'll be brief about this. Don't worry, man. You know, I got something for this. All right, so yeah, Jabari Smith Jr. said that the Rockets were the better team, right? Yeah, all right, yeah. All that shit. Get the fuck out of the playoffs. Boom, goodbye. Good night and good fucking game. Yeah, you thought you were going to beat a 5th team to come back from down 3-0 and create a Game 7, man? No, nigga, you needed KD just as much as he might have needed you, nigga. That burner shit. Tim McMahon wanted to come out with a report saying that they resolved the issue? Who the fuck believes that? Nigga, there's no way. Especially when he's going to be sitting on the bench in real time in Houston for this Game 6, looking at how these niggas shot throughout this game. Oh my goodness, they stunk up the fucking joint. Even if Amen Thompson somehow still got back to 50% shooting, this guy, a guy who can't fucking make shots, still got to 50% shooting. And then you look at everybody else. Jabari Smith Jr., you of all people are one to talk and saying, KD can still come back and play for us. He can still fight through those double teams. Nigga, you shot 3 of 11 in an elimination game for fucking 9 points. Reed Shepard shot 4-19, and this is the only motherfucker keeping your ass alive in this series with what he could do from 3-point range. You allowed a 41-year-old man to beat the living shit out of you in Game 6. He was by far the leading scorer in this damn game. By far. And then Tari Eason, of all people, 5 of 14 shooting. Are you serious? Something is actually up with this fucking team. Get this. You're supposed to keep an even playing field in a series like this, knowing how many times in a row they limited the Lakers' ability themselves to shoot three-pointers because they knew that they could not compete with that. And in a game where they shot the same amount of field goals from three-point range, in a Game 6 scenario, you shot fucking 5 of 28 for 17% from fucking 3. And you thought you were gonna win? Are you kidding me? Get the fuck on out of here. Then, to make matters even worse, as I'm watching this replay in real time, I'm still seeing Ime Udoka in an elimination situation. You're putting on Austin Reeves, who didn't even necessarily have to go off for a ballistic amount of points. You're putting fucking Alperen Sengun and Reed Shepard on him again. Did you not learn your lesson the first fucking time? Did you not? What is going on with these coaching decisions from these people? I need to know it. I need to understand. You already saw this happen in Game 5, the second that you got Amen Thompson on the man, and you still do not consistently put Amen Thompson on the man. Then Tari Eason having that terrible shooting performance is one thing. This man had LeBron James frying his ass, frying him in the post like a little fucking boy. Like, dude, there's so much going on. Just too much belt to ass in this Game 6 slate of games. This makes no sense. 3 different losses of varying kinds in just the ugliest manners you have ever seen in your life. And it makes an ending like the Raptors and Cavs, it stands out among the rest, and yet you just spoil it with all this other shit going on. It's unfair for them, but the Rockets just suck. The Rockets are just shitty. I don't know what this does mean for Mr. Ime Udoka. I don't know if they'd make the decision to actually fire him. But dude, this is just unacceptable stuff. Like, yo. Yeah, you didn't have KD for this game. He was out with the same injury again. Without Luka Doncic, without Austin Reeves for most of this series, you allowed them to go up to 3-0 in the first place. Why is it that you are playing at your best when you're trailing in a series? Why? Because yes, they did very well do the same thing against the Warriors to lose in the first round in 7 games last year. And now you're facing the same result again. As these people have been saying, you get KD to be your playoff closer, and not only does he play, and he plays well in the regular season, which is fair game, you still, with that in mind, finish with the very same record as you did last year in a worse seed. Maybe the way in which you're building your team is a little bit outdated. You think? If you can't shoot, if you can't consistently defend, how the fuck do you think you're going to last with other teams in the league? And for all that talk about rugged defensive identity, here we have teams like the Raptors and the Spurs who are still alive in this playoff run who are better defensive teams than the Rockets are. And who have proven that on occasion, they can still find the ugliest ways to compete and win. They can still outperform the Rockets on their best day and win. So what exactly are you doing on your end? Just an embarrassing display from this Rockets team. Like, they had to go. It was only a matter of time. Damn, Pest can't fight it off forever. Had to be gone. Had to be. Simple as that. Credit to Rui Hachimura as well for putting up 21 points on 8 of 15 shooting with 5 threes in this game. DeAndre Ayton also had 7 points and 16 boards. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just piss off, man. This fucking team out of here, dude. Just an absolute embarrassment. Seriously. Yeah, and I guess I'd have to read through it at some point as well. Those burners still matter. You don't fucking think that KD is on that shit right now, roasting each and every single one of these niggas right now for what they did in this game. Oh, but they agreed to resolve the issue and move forward. Bullshit. Because you're not going to have them shoot like this. And even if he was in, it's not going to completely stop them from performing in the way that they did. All it does is just put a Band-Aid on the fucking problem and the flaws that this team has. And it was their asses that still decided to give this man a 2-year, $90 million contract extension. It was their decision to do that. So now they have to live with it. You can trade them, but you very much still have to eat up that money. Now what are you going to do? You don't have many other ways of keeping this roster intact and expecting improvement right now. There are very few ways in which you can do it. You're going to need something. Maybe it's not a coaching change. It would be tough to separate with some of these players, but goodness gracious, man. If this is what you're settling for, a first round exit each and every single season, then yeah, probably keep the team the same fucking way. Though I will say, it came across something else as well. It's not necessarily a question about Amen Thompson getting extended. Yes, he should get extended. Are you going to pay him a full-fledged Supermax contract or an overblown rookie max contract extension like Kay Cunningham has gotten, like Paolo Banchero has gotten, for example? No, probably not. And if they do that, unless Amen Thompson takes those steps to flush out those hitches in his game, that's going to be a tremendous overpay. But right now, he is still too valuable of a player and so young to where it's like, yes, you're going to re-sign him. That's a given. Still, now you have to think about this with other players. And I know that, again, they want to build it in a way where you have wings who can line up against 1 through 5, who can guard all of these positions, and who do have an ability on occasion to shoot the fucking ball. But it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, and you need to try something else sooner rather than later. Because at this point, you're just, as these players are getting older and older and older, you're going to start wasting the developmental time that each and every single one of them have. Man, hey. Oh my gosh. Oh, man. As for the Lakers, dude, let's see. They move on to face off against the Thunder with no timetable still for Luka Doncic's return. So, again, it's going to be a tough draw no matter what. It would be very helpful to have Luka Doncic out there, of course. But, who's to say that the Lakers don't, at the very least, make a bit of a rumble? And I'll tell you what, because some people have been saying, oh, if LeBron at the age of 41 can get past the Rockets of all teams in the first round, he's the GOAT, and the debate is over. I'm not one to necessarily suggest that, but I would say that, if there was really much of a gap in the first place, and if there is still a question about, his chances to become that amongst the consensus, I'll tell you right now, if LeBron can somehow, some way, as a part of this Lakers team, get past the Thunder, which I don't think is going to happen, in the off chance that it does, oh yeah, you'd have to start giving him a little more respect. This Oklahoma City team is meant to be dynastic in a way. You can't face off against a team like that, take them down, and not have some sort of a boost to your overall resume as a player. So most certainly, if he can manage to do that, oh yeah, by all means, have at it. If you want to say that he's the GOAT, then, fine. Chances are they're not going to do that, though, just to be completely honest with you. But, yeah. This is a very interesting slate of games, man. I mean, mostly competitive. Some just brutal collapses, and the Hawks didn't have a chance. The Magic are ass and don't belong here. Maybe. The Rockets are ass, and we figured they were going to go down. Aside from that, though, again, Wolves advance, Knicks advance, 76ers stay alive somehow. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens later on with that. Oh yeah, that'll do it for this one, and all the belt to ass taking place here. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.